Okay, so this is my first time trying to live stream something that I'm actually doing other than just a test. What I'm going to do is set up Ubuntu Mate, which is one of my favorite Linux distributions. It's a nice balance of, I think, mainstream Ubuntu and the and a good flexible desktop environment, which is Mate. So you fuse those two things together. You fuse the Ubuntu distribution with the Mate desktop environment, and you get something that I think is a really good combination for me of something that is pretty mainstream. Ubuntu is easy to learn about, and there's a lot of resources online, and something that's still pretty flexible to do whatever I want to as far as the way the desktop environment's set up. And today, I installed a new hard drive into my laptop and consequently had to reinstall Ubuntu, reinstall my Windows partition. And because I was going to go through and be setting up Ubuntu from a fresh install anyway, I thought it might be fun to do a live stream and show that process step by step. So I really don't have I have written down a basic list of things that I want to do, but I don't really have a really well-defined list of setups that I do after I have a fresh install. And to be honest, this is really the first time that I've reinstalled Ubuntu Mate on this computer, and this was my first Linux computer, so it's the first time. There's a first time for everything. So I don't have a super fast computer, don't have a big streaming box, and that's going to limit the quality probably. But hopefully you can see what I'm doing, and hopefully you can hear me as I'm doing it, and we'll see where it goes. We'll see how far we can get. So you can tell I've got a couple of things open already. I have done a little bit of the very basic setup. One of the things that I did, I obviously installed OBS to be able to stream, but I also added the display settings menu to my panel on the top here. And just to show you how to do that, it's a checkbox. I need to show you my screen. Let me switch to my internal monitor and let me get the scaling right. Should have done this earlier. In fact, I thought I did do it earlier. I thought I had gotten all of this set up already. So you should be able to see my monitor a little bit more clearly now. And to show you where I started, I was working earlier to get the very minimum stuff that I needed to be able to stream set up. So I installed OBS, and you can see OBS is running on the panel up here. Then I had to set up my monitors. I have an external monitor, so I was in the display preferences anyway, or monitor preferences, and I went ahead and checked this box to show monitors in the panel. And I like how this allows me to turn on and off that external 22-inch monitor when I need to, without having to open up the monitor preferences and edit it in there. So those are the two things that I've changed to the user interface of default Mate. And you're going to hear me probably alternate between Mate and Mate because I hear it both ways on podcasts that I listen to and stuff. So I said I didn't have a list. I didn't have much of a list, but I'm going to go to the short list that I made and start from the top. The first thing that I'm going to change is in the appearances menu. So I open up the control center from the menu here, and I'm going to skip down to the look and feel. This is really where we're going to spend all of our time. And under appearance, my preference is to use this ambient Mate dark. It tones down the brightest areas, but it's not inky black. Like black mate is like looking into a black hole for me. It's almost kind of uncomfortable. So switch to ambient mate dark, and you see how the control center is already changed. You would be able to see, if you were looking at my other monitor, how some other things have changed. And let me look at one more issue here with the stream. Just getting used to this setup, and especially because I've reinstalled it today, I'm kind of getting used to that new installation as well. Okay, so I think I finally have that the way I want it, and this is a good demonstration of what that theme looks like. I think you still have some green elements, which is kind of a signature Mate design element, but I really like not having the green scroll bar. I like having this darker gray scroll bar, and that doesn't clash quite as much with a lot of websites as the green scroll bar. So I really don't make many other changes in this appearances menu, but we can go and look through. I have used this standard Ubuntu Mate wallpaper for a long time. Sometimes I like this one, this gray wallpaper, but things end up being a little too gray at that point, with the dark Mate theme and then the gray wallpaper. I certainly don't mess with any of the fonts. That's just my preference. And then I just discovered this right now. I really don't understand what these options are for. I see as I'm trying them out though, that buttons are these little icons that appear on the buttons, like help and close. Help has a question mark. Close actually kind of looks clean without the icons on the buttons, so I might try that. I need to remember that if I see something confusing somewhere though, like a button without any sort of label. Hopefully that doesn't happen. So let's just go through this whole look and feel menu. So the main menu here, and this is referring to, I think, this main menu up here. It's almost analogous to the Windows Start menu, I guess, if you're a Windows user. And I know that on my laptop, when I press the super key, which on my laptop the button still has a Windows icon on it, a Windows 10 icon, it opens up that menu, so it behaves like the Start menu as well. I don't think I need to change anything here. So I'm going to dump out of that, and let's see. The next thing that I knew I wanted to cover was in this Mate Tweak menu. And I'll tell a story about Mate Tweak. When I first started using Ubuntu Mate, which was about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, this was one of the first places that I landed because I really hated the panel layout on this screen. So where you see the top bar and you see the bottom bar, I didn't like having both a top bar and a bottom bar because my monitor is a 16:9 resolution, so it feels kind of short already. And then we were taking away pixels from the top and the bottom. So I was trying to build something that was similar to what I was using in OS 10, which was the last operating system I used before Ubuntu, which was to take this part of the user interface, which allows you to switch between open applications, and move it over to the left side. I had my OS 10 panel, my OS 10 dock on the left side of the screen, So I went here. I went to um, looking through Mate Tweak and went to the panel and started clicking through these different panel arrangements to see if I could find something that was close to what I was used to. And I think Martin Wimpress has talked about it already, but there, back in the 18.4 days, there were problems. There was a bug that was coming from the window compositor or something, and as you switched through these different themes, sometimes you could get into a situation where the panels wouldn't reload. Like if you switched to a different theme, the panel would be invisible, and it was not the best experience for me as a newbie coming in trying to get everything set up the way I wanted. But I eventually got through it thanks to some friendly Google searches, and now I think that bug has been fixed, which is nice. So we're going to switch through these and see if we can get it the way I like it. And familiar is actually very familiar. It seems like a natural place to start because I think most people are comfortable with having their open applications along the bottom like this. Having different workspaces is something that we're not used to if you're coming from Windows. But that's a logical place for that to be, and I think it makes it easy for new users to discover how workspaces work. And this is a really good place to show the desktop. I think that's a logical place to put that button. So I think let's actually just switch through these. So I'm going to switch from the top to contemporary, and let's see what happens to the stream when we do this. So hopefully nothing happened to the stream, but it does look like all of my windows got rearranged, which is not a surprise. And I'm going to get everything back on my external monitor. Contemporary, it rearranged the top panel. That looks like it really the only thing that it did. The menu still works the same, but now the file edit view menu stuff is all in that top bar, where earlier, before we had switched, we were using familiar, there was just a Firefox shortcut button up there. So this is fine. One of the things I don't like about it is I don't like having this duplication of the name of the window on the client-side decorations, and then the name of the window up here on the panel. So let's go to Cupertino. Cupertino obviously is a reference to OS X and the city where Apple is located. Cupertino looks like OS X out of the box. You even have a similar behavior in the plank menu, I think is what this is called. In OS X you'd call it the dock, but here it's called plank. And I'll go ahead and show you the way I had this set up. I'm going to click on the appearance options for plank, and again the application that's running these icons down here is its own application that you can install on any in any desktop environment. It's called Plank, and I had it on the left side on my Mac, and I'd usually shrink it down so that it wasn't quite so bold and in your face. Maybe somewhere like there. And then I certainly would have it hide itself. Right now, this window dodge is kind of an interesting thing where it avoids covering up the window. And let me open up a new Firefox window and we'll actually see how that works. So I'm going to close that preferences menu for now. So with Firefox, if I open that and maximize it, the dock is out of the way, but I can still summon it by moving my mouse over there. Um, but if I move all of the windows out of the way of that dock, it doesn't hide itself. It it peeks out from the side, which is I think is nice, and I think that's a really good default. Because when you have something maximized, and especially on a screen like mine, which is pretty small and pretty low resolution, I'm trying to get as much content as possible on the display. So this is actually really comfortable. It's different than what I had before I reinstalled. I'll be honest. I was using something that I had set up, but this honestly feels like it works for me right now. So I think this might be the one I plan to come back to, and I'll actually save this. I'll call it Cupertino V, which is my username on this computer, and that way I'll be able to look around, see what else there is, and come back to that. So traditional here, I'm pretty sure traditional is one of the places that I started when I first started using Ubuntu Mate. And I think what I did is I went in and changed the way this lower panel was. So maybe I moved it onto the left side and was doing something like that. But I really didn't like how these two panels were touching each other and at different angles. So I didn't keep that for very long, I know. Let's see. Redmond, obviously, is a shout out to Microsoft. That brings everything down to the bottom, which is exactly how this looks exactly how Microsoft looks now. Seeing all of my drives, seeing kind of a system tray, but it isn't quite as collapsed. The menu here works like the start menu. It might feel right to a lot of people, but this doesn't feel right to me, even though it's the what I use every day at work. I don't remember really trying Pantheon at all. I don't know what was special about Pantheon, but Pantheon, man, it seems to work a lot like the custom layout that I did. Interesting. It's got the menu up there. It doesn't put the name of the window up top here. Gosh, it's almost like I should use Pantheon. Netbook was, I think, optimized for a lot of optimized for small screens. And it looks like I've crashed a couple of things. I'm gonna see if I can recover from this. Okay. And sorry about this. This is obviously pretty informal. Okay, so yeah, Netbook is super minimal. I'm almost even wondering if it's working correctly, because there's no clock here, and it looks like, well, we did see that error where the Brisk menu crashed, and Brisk is what shows up at the top here, and we can switch back to Pantheon probably and get back, and hopefully it'll reload Brisk. Maybe not. Let's see. So I do want that brisk menu to reload for the rest of the demonstration here. So, okay, let's see. Let's take a little diversion, and I'm going to ask Google if it can help me reload the crashed taskbar in Ubuntu Mate. It's an answer. Mate panel replace. Let's run that here. It looks like it did it. So this is the brisk menu that I was talking about earlier. I don't really know why it's called brisk, but that's what it is. And now we're back. I'm getting tired of moving these windows around, but something I should learn about for next time. So let's see, Mutiny, and Mutiny is really the last one that I think we haven't looked at yet. Mutiny is a reference to the old Ubuntu desktop environment called Unity. Brisk broke again. And this actually doesn't look very healthy either. Let's see. If this doesn't work, I'm actually probably not going to work really hard to get you to get it to show up, because I think a lot of people are familiar with Unity. Good. Okay, so that was just easy to right click and reset this panel up here. So, and this is a staple of Unity. Unity takes one of the things that I like, which is having your applications show up on the left side of the screen, but it makes it big, and it shows, you know, a couple of default applications. So this is like pinning something to the taskbar in Windows. I wouldn't do it, certainly not with LibreOffice stuff. I really don't use LibreOffice that much. But I would do it with Firefox and with some other applications that I'm going to be going back to a lot. But this is just too big, especially on my small screen. If I had a huge monitor, a really high resolution screen, I might shrink this down and it might be comfortable. But I didn't look twice at Unity, honestly. And I know that there's a problem here with Brisk still. And there's a problem here with Tilde. I'm going to talk about Tilde later, but let's see if I can run that reload Brisk or Mate panel replace again. What is the error we're getting here? Okay, dosage interface at menu registrar. Okay. Yeah, that we're definitely throwing in some curveballs, but this is what Mutiny is supposed to look like. So it has the menu up here at the top, and it has the menu items for the current application. So file, edit, view menus. Not attached. Well, they are attached to the window too. This is another thing I don't like. I really don't like having duplicated user interface elements, especially when I don't have a lot of room on the screen. But when you maximize something, when you maximize a window, the controls to close or minimize the screen go up into this tiny little weird corner area, and that stays empty if you're working with the screen. a windowed screen. So I have to admit I don't really know what's going on there, but I just killed it and killed all of my panels again. But I'm going to go back to Pantheon in the interest of keeping things out of the box and see if we can recover our brisk menu one more time. Let's see. I'm even struggling to open the terminal the normal ways that I do that now. Let's see. So another Google helped me. Another Google search reminded me that I can use Control-Alt-T to get to the terminal. And I'm going to paste in that Mate panel replace command. And I think I am back in business. Man, that was a whirlwind of... I know that it's not designed to work this way. So there's something going wrong here with this Mate panel replace because that command isn't finished yet. So we're going to keep this terminal window open, and we're going to see if we get some error messages or something as we keep using what we've got. But I do like the way Pantheon's working, how that this dock hides itself if it's in the way, and yeah, this is kind of weird how that's not moving anywhere. I'm gonna look in processes here and see if there's something running away. This is just the standard processes menu that you access from about this computer. And let's see. Mate system monitor, which is what we're looking at right now. Mate session. Marco is the window compositor. Brisk is running. And yeah, I mean, I'm no expert, but I don't see anything that looks too strange. So so I'm gonna get that out of the way. It's still running here. And we're just going to leave it running. We're not going to think about it. We're going to come and check on it, see if it gets any better as we move along. So let's talk about the other things that I wanted to show. We talked about Mate Tweak, and the tweak menu is still here. One of the other changes that I made before I started was adding this tilde menu. Where if you check this box that says enable pull down terminal on any of these panels, it allows you to press F12 and open up tilde. And I think tilde, I thought it was installed. Tilde is a little application that just allows you to summon a terminal, type in a command, and then dismiss it with F12 again. So you press F12, you type whatever command you need, and this is not showing up exactly right because of the way my my external monitor is aligned, but we can clear this and you know, uname -a, and we can see, you know, the basics of this PC or whatever. I can press F12 and dismiss that window, and then when I bring it back, it's not like opening a brand new terminal window. I can see where I left off, which is really nice. I actually use this a lot. So that was the only other thing that the only other setting that I changed at the very beginning before I started streaming. So Windows here, let's see. I don't think I changed anything. Again, I had some problems at the very beginning. This was, you know, when I first started using Mate with the window manager, but a lot of that's been fixed. I was using a different window manager that was included at the time, and now I don't need to. So it was Compiz, I think, Compiz. But now Marco should be working pretty well, according to what I've heard, and it's nice to see that this list has gotten shorter. Yeah, I'm going to leave everything default here. I do want to point out this like undecorate maximized windows. I'm going to bring in another Firefox window and use that as an example. So this is Firefox, and I'm actually going to go and show some tweaks to Firefox next. The client-side decorations, or what it means when it says undecorate maximized windows here, is this top bar that has the application name and the buttons. So let's see what that does when we check that box and bring Firefox back. Once we maximize it, you can see that you no longer have the name of the window at the top, and you don't have the buttons to close it, which is a little bit disorienting, honestly. I mean, you can still quit the application with hotkeys or using Control Q in Firefox or whatever other application you're using. You can even go over here and right click, close all, if you wanted to close all of your Firefox windows. But one of my main goals is to save vertical space, and this is certainly a way to save vertical space, but I just find it to be disorienting, and I guess I'm so used to having those decorations, and now you get to laugh at me because I gotta figure out how to bring them back. Oh, I know, I looked at this earlier. I can use one of the new key bindings that's included in Mate, which is the super key. So usually if you're using a Windows computer or an old Windows computer, it's the Windows button and then left and right arrow to snap the window to the left or right side of the screen, and then the up arrow to maximize. So that was kind of a good way to just move that screen around and get those decorations back after we change that setting out from underneath it. So that was the last thing I was going to talk about in Mate tweak. I think this window snapping is what I just demonstrated. Yeah, so we're going to move on. I'm going to close Mate tweak, and before I show you changes to Firefox, let me minimize that. I want to show another change that I make to try and save vertical space. I feel like this menu here at the top is a little too large. I feel like we can make that a little bit more sleek. Right now it's at 28 pixels, and if we step down a little bit, 26 feels a lot better to me, in fact, but I want to push it a little bit further. I think let's see, 23 maybe is a little bit small. Let's do 24. And this, it's only a few pixels, but it's right at the top of the screen, and I think it makes a big difference. So that was the last thing I wanted to change and show. The other, in Mate Tweak at least, the other things that that you can change in the look and feel section or pop-up notifications. These change color, obviously, when you change the theme. So I'm pretty happy with the way that notification looks. That top right of the screen makes sense to me because that's where my clock is. So it's kind of seems like a time sensitive area. Screensavers, do we really use these anymore? But the screensaver does. I do notice that my screensaver comes on if I'm still on my lock screen after a while. And then I don't think I have really ever changed anything in this window preferences box or window preferences settings. This is interesting. I think this is an interesting difference between Windows and OS X. I'm pretty sure Windows and OS X behave differently this way, or at least older versions of Windows and OS X. I'm pretty sure in old versions of OS X you could scroll in the window that was behind an active window, but in Windows, you're always active in the frontmost window, regardless of where your mouse was on the screen. And this might not actually mean that. Yeah, that's a little bit different. Selecting windows when the mouse cursor moves over them. That's different than what I was thinking of. But it's interesting feature that you can use. I don't think I'm comfortable with using that actually. Enable software compositing window manager. Disable thumbnails in Alt Tab. Yeah, I think it makes sense to have those thumbnails in Alt Tab because it does give you an idea about if you have multiple Firefox windows open. I can easily see right here that I've got a minimized Firefox window and then an unminimized or open Firefox window. So that's basically everything in that look and feel group, and a really honestly long drawn out discussion of what I change and why. But while we're being long and drawn out, let's make it even longer. Let's talk about Firefox. So I've always felt like Firefox has it takes up a lot of space up here between the address bar, the tab bar, and then the client-side decorations that I've already admitted that I feel like I need. This is a lot of vertical space that it's taking up. And one of the things that I just learned, it's not like it's hidden or anything, but right-clicking on this area up here, this really the tab bar, and going to customize, I had not noticed these options. So in Firefox, which is really one of the places where you need that vertical space because you want to maximize the space that you have for a web browser or for the web page that you're looking at. I had been looking at this browser for a year and saying, like, I really don't need to see this window label, but I do like having the buttons over here on the client-side decorations. And I found out today that you can unclick this title bar and everything goes crazy again. Actually, that's super strange. I don't think that was what it was supposed to do. Hold on. Let me save that, close this window, and then bring in a new one just to make sure that we're seeing what we intended to see. Yeah, we're good. Okay, so go back to where we were. When we uncheck this title bar option, it does shrink down that area of the screen by removing that title bar, but we still have these buttons, which I really feel the need to have to feel comfortable using the web browser. So this was a huge surprise for me to find that, because that's what I had been looking for a long time. I do lose some space to spread the tabs out by shrinking the length of this element, this user interface element, but I think it's better to have that vertical space than the horizontal space. I can deal with scrolling on the tab bar if I need to. Themes, just leave the default actually, and I think Firefox got updated when I changed to the Mate dark theme. The other thing that I'm really excited about discovering is changing this to a compact density instead of the normal density. So compact, it shrinks everything else at the top of the screen that I didn't just get rid of, and this feels so nice to me. I just figured this setup out today while I was exploring, and I got used to using full screen when I was browsing, because it gave me the maximum vertical space, but also I didn't like losing the address bar. I didn't like losing the title bar when I was doing that. So it was a compromise, but this feels like less of a compromise. And I wanted to show, actually wanted to show The Verge, because their website is, I think, a little bit obnoxious in how much vertical space the top of that page takes up. And before I had made some of these changes, before I had shrunk this panel at the very top of the screen, and before I had gotten rid of the title bar on the application menu, sometimes, especially if The Verge had an ad that they had sold, I think sometimes they'll sell ads above the masthead here, you wouldn't see anything. You wouldn't see any content on this screen, and you can already see, like, this is the standard zoom setting, and I'm excited about how much room I have, and I can barely read the first headline. So if you have a much higher screen resolution, or a much bigger screen, or, well, really both, I guess, a much higher screen resolution on a big or small screen, you can see a lot more of that, of these pages without having to scroll. And that was one of the things that I was really going for, is to be able to see as much of a web page as possible without giving up some of the pieces of the user interface that I've come to get used to and I've been really comfortable with for a long time. So The Verge, I think, is a good test case for that, because it does take up so much room with this logo, and sometimes they even have ads around here. So let me go back to my list, see if I got anything else that I wanted to talk about. I think that's it for now. I think, oh, one of the things, let's go check in our terminal and see. This Mate panel replace is still running. It hasn't finished yet. In the interest of experimentation, I'm going to go ahead and Control C and see what happens. So, yep. So it killed those panels now when I Controlled C there. Do that one more time. Now I've got those panels back. So, okay, I guess that's what it is. I guess what I'm gonna have to do is go back to the Mate tweak and maybe reload that one more time, or maybe even I think what I'm actually going to do is reboot and make sure everything is back to normal. But thanks for watching a really long, drawn-out video of some pretty simple stuff that I do to get Ubuntu Mate comfortable and easy to use and nice looking, in my opinion. I'm interested to hear how you set up your Mate or other distribution, and I'm sure that you've got some better ideas than I do. I see a lot of people out there with really great looking desktops, and I know it just takes a matter of time to play around with it, to discover some different tools and some different ways to mix them together. Yeah, if you've got a suggestion, and I'd be interested to see it. You can send me a tweet. I'm at BEN_V, and I'll be here on YouTube.